Hey everyone, Videogame Cabinet here, and tonight we're doing a review on Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix for the PlayStation 1. I played through Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix this past week. I enjoyed beating the original Fear Effect 2 years ago, so I was really excited to see how the sequel stacks up. This is another solid action-adventure title with beguiling graphical flair, but it does come up just short of how much I like the original by the end. Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix is a visual treat. The mix of anime with rotoscoping returns here, and it looks just as remarkable as it did before. The backgrounds are all brought to life with full motion video, and the attention to detail is staggering. This looks and feels just like an anime movie set in futuristic Hong Kong. I loved exploring the environments, even if it was sometimes hard to find key spots. The gameplay is much like a lot of survival horror games inspired by the original Resident Evil, and it does feel a bit dated by today's standards. The tank controls, fixed camera angles, and puzzles are all here. I was a fan of games like this back in the 1990s, so I still had a good time discovering the secrets in Retro Helix. Some of the puzzles were delightfully clever brain teasers, but others were so obscure that I had to resort to an internet guide in order to solve them. Retro Helix also gives each playable character several guns and plenty of ammunition. This is a good quality of life improvement over the original, in which ammo was scarce. There are also instant load times after death, which is a big plus. Retro Helix takes place a couple years before the original game. The plot here revolves around a virus called ENS that is threatening the world's population. Hana and her friend Rain start off the game by infiltrating a corporate party to steal some DNA samples that have something to do with the virus, and they eventually run into Deke and Glass, who were in the first game. Much of the backstory about the virus is confusing and just briefly mentioned here and there. I felt like the plot and setup about kidnapping in the original Fear Effect enthralled me more than the virus plot here. Towards the end of Retro Helix, there is more vague chatter about a group of immortals and their history with humans from thousands of years ago. It's all just talked about but never shown. I would have liked some flashback scenes to flesh out the ancient lore better. The original Fear Effect had its fair share of Chinese mythology, but in Retro Helix, I found the references to old legends to be even more aloof. Hana is still an awesome lead character, and her new friend Rain is fun to play as well. There are some plot twists about Rain towards the end that again are quickly talked about and explained in a rushed manner. This further adds to the frustrating ambiguity of the plot and diminished the impact of the ending for me. I am giving Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix a 7 out of 10. I liked it, but the first one was a little better. There is good fun here if you like old school action-adventure games, and the visuals are spellbinding. I just wish the plot had not relied so much on lore dumping, especially towards the end. And that is my review. Yeah, so, I gotta say, I reviewed Part 1 Fear Effect 2 years ago. I wrote a written review, a short one on my Instagram, when I beat it in summer of 2022. I gave it an 8 out of 10. And I remember liking it a little bit more than I liked this one by the end. Since it's been a couple of years, I was rewatching a Let's Play and some of the cutscenes of the original on YouTube. I had to remind myself a little bit about the plot, that with the original one, that it was Hana trying to find some girl who was kidnapped, and at the beginning of the game she's talking about killing herself. It grabbed me more than the plot here about the virus that I think they show a couple people that are infected by it very quickly, but it doesn't seem like it's threatening the world's population so much. I don't know if it hasn't gotten out yet, but I think that they said that the virus birth started like when Hana was born, so like that's already like 22 something years later. I think she's around that age when this game takes place. But yeah, I don't know. And then towards the end, there's just so much lore dumping about these ancient immortals and like their past with the humans 4 billion years ago or something. It's very confusing. It's a lot of chatter by I think there's like 8 immortals or something that you run into with Glass. You play as him and Hannah going up this tower, and there's these challenges, and they talk and talk and talk and talk, and it's really confusing. And then the twist, a little bit of spoilers about Rain and her twin sister, and like it's very fast, and it didn't flow right for me, and it kind of diminished the impact of the ending. I remember in the first one there was some confusing Chinese mythology, but I felt like in this part 2 there's even more of that and more lore dumping just through chit chat with mostly the immortals at the end, just talking and trying to explain stuff really fast, and it didn't grab me as much as I wanted to. I did like the first one a little bit better. Yeah, and the gameplay here is dated, but I do kind of like that style of game. It isn't quite as polished as, say, the puzzles and the gameplay in the original Resident Evil, which is one of my favorite games ever. But it was still good. I enjoyed it. I did have to look up some of the puzzles online, but others, once I started getting used to them, I did find quite a few that were really fun, clever brain teasers, like I was saying. But yeah, I'll say that I like this. It was a good game. The visual flair is amazing. The graphics are even a little bit better than the first one, which was a marvel. Just really, really unique look to it, and this one. But yeah, I heard people saying that the sequel was better, but I don't know. I like the first one a little bit better from what I remember. But anyway, so those are my thoughts. I'm glad I got this off the backlog. This game came out in 2001, and now I'm finally getting to it in 2024. So it's been a long time coming. I'm glad it's off my backlog, and yeah. This is a 7 out of 10. It's a solid game. The adult themes, it's a very mature rated game. That's cool. The setting. The characters Hana and Rain, they are awesome. So they do carry the plot a little bit, even when it gets a little bit murky. But the characters still really make it. Hana is a really, really great lead, and just the setting, the futuristic Hong Kong setting, is really, really cool. So I don't want to downplay the goodness of that. It's still a very solid title overall. Still a good game, worth playing. And that's it. Those are my thoughts on Fear Effect 2 Retro Helix. 7 out of 10. And have a good night.